The father left the family, abandoning his wife and child. How many similar stories exist in the world? Plenty. They don't surprise, don't frighten, and sometimes become the subject of jokes. Dad went out for bread and never came back. Such jokes become commonplace. Perhaps he is searching for fresh French bread in the heart of Paris, walking all the way there. Other fathers acquire more serious statuses. For example, abandoned wives turn them into sailors, astronauts, even spies. Of course, mothers come up with tales with the best intentions. It's hard to explain to a little child why they don't have a dad because of his strange reasons. It's easier to say he's a spy or on a dangerous mission. But what do you tell a child if their mother left them? What if the birth mother left her daughter in the care of a completely unfamiliar person? What kind of joke would people come up with for such a situation? William sat at the kitchen table, listening to the ticking of the wall clock and pondering these questions. He couldn't find an answer. His fingers trembled with tension, and he clenched them into fists. Pain pulsed behind his eye sockets as if someone had poured sand into his eyes. In front of him sat a charming little girl, resembling a porcelain doll named Olesia. Her eyes were big and green, like forest moss. Fluffy eyelashes looked as if she had already tried her mom's mascara. Cheeks were chubby, and her lips formed a heart shape. Dark chestnut curls framed her face. Olesia had just turned 3 and was actively enjoying sweet semolina porridge, occasionally getting distracted by a cartoon about cats. Oscar learned that Mom didn't allow her to have a kitten, citing allergies, which turned out to be a lie. Marina didn't want to deal with pets, just like with her daughter. Oscar propped his cheek with his fist and sighed heavily. He was only 26, but he felt like he was 40. "Oscar, I ate," Olesia said, pushing the plate with smeared porridge away. "Okay," nodded the man, tossing the plate into the sink. "Go put on your shoes. I don't want to go to daycare." The girl frowned. "You have to, Olesia, you have to," Oscar replied, recalling how his father used the same phrase from the cartoon. "Why?" The girl kicked her legs. "Adults have to go to work, and kids have to go to daycare. If I didn't work, I could stay with you, but then we wouldn't have anything to eat." "My mom doesn't work," Olesia frowned. "Let her leave me at home." "Where is Mom?" "Why can she be at home and I can't?" Oscar froze. He didn't expect the conversation to come so soon. No, he wasn't ready. Mom went on business. He mumbled and began washing the plate, avoiding the child's gaze. "Will she come back soon?" Olesia asked. "I don't know," Oscar mumbled. Then, shaking off the soapy foam from his hands and taking a deep breath, turned to the child. "Lesia, I think you need to go to Grandma Zoe's." The girl frowned. "I don't like it there," she confessed quietly, picking at the tablecloth with her finger. "It's always dark and quiet at Grandma's. The room smells strange, especially near the bed, and Grandma coughs terribly, burns smelly candles, and mumbles something in front of the picture of God. She scares me all the time. She says there are ghosts in the house. If I don't obey, they will eat me at night. But I obey, and she still gets mad. She says I shouldn't make noise, laugh, or run around. She also says I'm a strange child, and a lot of other things, but I won't repeat them." Oscar was horrified, rubbed his face with the palm of his hand, and remembered his mother-in-law. Marina had given birth to her very late, so Zoya was old, unhealthy, and overly religious. She reminded him of an angry schoolteacher. Oscar wondered if she would even be able to take care of the baby. Olesia is a real troubled girl, and it will be difficult to bring her up. Would she make her bare knees stand on buckwheat? "Get ready for daycare," Oscar finally said, looking at his watch. "We are already late." Olesia, sighing, obediently left the kitchen. He involuntarily remembered how he had once found himself in such a situation. Oscar met Marina, Olesia's mother, a year and a half ago. The spectacular brunette immediately charmed him, maybe even bewitched. Not for nothing green-eyed girls were called witches. About the existence of little Olesia man then did not know. Marina hid her daughter with her mother in the village. The real story of his beloved Oscar learned only when he assured Marina in the seriousness of his intentions. Marina lived in the village and was brought up by an adult mother. Dull village life she did not like. The girl wanted more. Therefore, barely sounded the last school bell, she packed her bags and rushed to the city. However, It turned out that in the city of beautiful and ambitious is already enough. Marina did not give up. She entered the institute, fell in love with a rich guy, 2 years older than her. Before continuing, I recommend subscribing to my channel so you don't miss the daily videos. At the end of the 3rd year, she learned that she was expecting a child, except that the major was not happy about the prospect of becoming a young father. He threw Marina the money as if paid off, but in a flash disappeared from view. It was said that he moved to another country after graduation. Marina wanted to terminate the pregnancy, but the term was large and doctors refused her. Then the girl dropped out of school. So Olesia was born. Marina immediately took her daughter to the village and gave her to her grandmother for upbringing, and herself returned to the city. Fleeing from a newborn child, she covered a plausible excuse. The baby needs money, and where they, in the village, earn. Marina got a job as a waitress. Hoped to find a rich groom, she did not leave. However, time passed, and the prince on a white Mercedes did not appear. But Oscar did. At that time, the man was not poor. Therefore, he left the girl a generous tip, which immediately attracted her attention. Marina, in response to the financial contribution, left the young man his phone number. So, and spun their romance, Marina learned that Oscar is a young businessman. However, he achieved this not so long ago. He used to live in the village. Oscar was from a poor family. His mother worked at a furniture company, and his father built houses. As a child, Oscar often spent time with his father in other people's apartments, helping with painting and plastering work. When Oscar grew up, he followed in his workaholic father's footsteps. First, he graduated from a construction college, in parallel doing repairs and gaining experience. Then the guy realized that the real money should be sought in big cities. He moved to another city and met Harry Carter, a man who greatly influenced the fate of the guy. Together with Carter, they founded their own construction company, which quickly gained popularity. Oscar became the director of the company. Business was booming. Oscar rejoiced in life, not yet knowing that a white streak will certainly be followed by a black one. Speech about marriage Marina started first, after a little more than 6 months of relationship. She did not want to miss such a successful man like Oscar. Of course, so far he could not afford to buy anything, but the future with him looked very promising. And she was simply tired of carrying trays with plates and smiling at guests, except that the girl had to open all the cards. She met Oscar in his rented apartment, pale and anxious. Oscar noticed it at once. "Marina, you're not sick. Or did something happen?" He asked when the woman entered the room. Marina didn't delay with explanations. Nervously biting her plump lips, and with tears in her eyes, she confessed to Oscar about the deception. "I love my daughter so much. I miss her so much. I'm ashamed that I rarely visit her and left her with her grandmother." The young woman sobbed as she spoke. "But when I saw you, I fell in love immediately. Do you understand? I was afraid that I would scare you away with a child, because these days, single mothers are not loved. Is that fair? Is it fair that Olesia's father treated us unfairly and ran away? But if you decide that another person's child is a problem and choose to leave, I'll understand. I'll let you go, even though I love you madly." At the end of Marina's emotional monologue, she collapsed onto the couch, crying bitter tears. Oscar's heart tightened with anxiety. Like many men, he was at a loss in the face of a woman's tears. The young man sat down next to Marina and comforted his weeping beloved. "Marina, please calm down," he said, stroking her head. "I love you after all, so I'll love your child too. How could it be otherwise? You shouldn't have hidden her from me." A week later, Oscar saw little Olesia for the first time. The girl, a miniature copy of her mother, immediately captured his heart. It was easy to receive the love of the naive child. Oscar simply gave her a wonderful doll, making her eyes sparkle like emeralds. Later, it was Oscar who insisted on bringing the little girl to the city. To his surprise, Marina wasn't very enthusiastic about it. "We have work. How will we manage with a child? She needs a lot of attention," she asked her fiancé, looking away. "The air in the village is better. In the city, she'll get sick more often. We're a young couple. We need some time for ourselves after the wedding. I'm afraid all the romance will be gone through this." Oscar was amazed by such reasoning. However, he was sometimes more naive than a child. So he sincerely believed that Marina was just concerned about his relationship with the girl. In the end, they reached a compromise. They took Olesia and enrolled her in a kindergarten. Marina quit her job. Oscar devoted a lot of attention to the child, hoping to become a real father. Marina and Oscar got married. The man officially adopted Olesia. Everything seemed to be going well, but a year later, Oscar's world collapsed. Harry Carter, that same friend and business partner, did a very nasty thing. It turned out he was involved in illegal activities, using the construction business as a cover. Almost all the money that belonged to Oscar ended up with Harry Carter. When the truth came out, a very long story of regular tax audits, document falsification, lawsuits for large sums, and criminal liability began. What happened to Harry Carter? He packed his bags and left the country to spend the stolen money. The surprise was that Marina went with him. She had been cheating on Oscar with Carter all this time. She just left a farewell letter and followed her lover. Oscar was not as surprised by his wife's admission of betrayal and infidelity as he was by her attitude towards the child. The letter was written in a measured handwriting, as if she was in a hurry. Oscar, understand me correctly. I'm running away because I can't stand all these interrogations and accusations, the sideways glances from people. No, I can't and don't want to live with someone with whom we might end up in poverty. This is not what you promised me when we got married. I'm sorry, but I'm leaving with my beloved Harry. Our relationship started a long time ago. But can I be blamed for this? Oscar, didn't you notice the obvious? Maybe you never really loved me if you didn't feel jealous or even suspect that it would all turn out like this. You calmly let me spend time with Harry when you were busy. You yourself pushed us towards each other. So reap what you've sown. You can take Olesia back to Grandma Zoe in the village. Tell her that I won't be coming back. I hope we can part peacefully. I don't think you need another round of court hearings, so just sign the divorce papers. Oscar was in shock and read the message 3 times to fully grasp the meaning of the words on the paper. So, you're accusing me. Involuntarily, he spoke aloud, addressing the paper as if it were his runaway wife. Accusing me of not suspecting you of betrayal. That I let you be alone with my friend. I just believed. I didn't feel jealous because I trusted both of you. And this is how you repay me. No, Oscar wasn't a fool. He was just a man with a big heart and a kind soul, which was so easily wounded. And now, he stood in the kitchen, looking at the child abandoned by her mother. At some point, Oscar thought that his fate wasn't so bad after all. At least his parents loved him. But what about this little girl? Marina never loved her, Oscar thought bewilderedly, as if only now realizing it. How did I not notice this? She's right, I'm a blind fool. In the end, the stepfather took the sad girl to daycare, and on the weekend, he took Olesia to the village to her grandmother. He understood that he couldn't take care of the child until he sorted out his own problems. Olesia cried bitterly, holding onto his hand and begging him not to leave her here. I'm scared. The girl whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't leave me, please. Grandma Zoe came out of the house, casting a sidelong glance at the girl. She roughly took her by the shoulder. What are you whimpering about? She scolded the child. You've been spoiled. Don't worry, I'll teach you everything. I couldn't raise your mother, but at least I'll take care of you and make up for your mother's sins. Oscar's heart tightened in his chest. It hurt to see the red, tear-stained eyes of Olesia framed by wet and clumped lashes. Oscar quickly got into the car, eager to leave his mother-in-law's house. When he had already started the engine and moved away, there was a moment when Olesia bit her grandmother's hand. At her scream, Oscar, turning around, saw the girl, breaking free from her grandmother's embrace, rushing towards the car. She ran after her stepfather, crying loudly. The girl, who had been abandoned so often, begged Oscar not to leave. He didn't see it, but he felt that Olesia had called him Dad for the first time. She shouted the cherished word, Daddy. Daddy, Daddy, don't leave me, the girl cried. No, this can't be. Oscar whispered, gripping the steering wheel. Suddenly hitting the brakes, he jumped out to meet the little girl. The man embraced little Olesia. He felt how strongly the child's heart was pounding, as if a rabbit escaping from a wolf. I'm sorry, sunshine, I won't leave you, he promised, realizing he would do everything to keep his word. Oscar had to argue with his mother-in-law, who threatened with legal action. "The child is not your own," she declared. "I'll go to the police. Let them decide who the girl should live with." Oscar wasn't too scared by her speech. He returned home with Olesia. They spent the entire weekend together. The little girl didn't leave her stepfather's side, as if afraid he would still run away. At first, Oscar wanted to ask his mom to come to the city to help with the child. However, he understood that he had to handle it himself. That's how he took on the responsibility of a single father. Later, he thought that it was the right decision not only for Olesia, but also for him. Without caring for the little one, he would have simply gone crazy. He would have given up, unable to withstand unfair accusations and thoughts of betrayal from loved ones. A whole year passed. Fortunately, Oscar managed to avoid imprisonment. However, he lost a lot: his business, all the money, property, even respect. So, his life started from scratch. He became an ordinary builder again and took on any job. Olesia continued to live with her stepfather. Grandma Zoe couldn't make it to the police station to claim rights to her granddaughter. A heart attack happened faster. Marina didn't come to her mother's funeral. Oscar was still learning to be a father. In the mornings, he tried to braid her hair. It didn't turn out well, but Olesia didn't complain. However, soon the problem with hairstyles was solved in a drastic way. On that day, Olesia didn't go to daycare because she fell ill. Oscar had to take her to work with him. He gave his stepdaughter candies and toys, took her to a room with bare walls and remnants of construction equipment. Of course, the under-repair room wasn't the best place for a child, but they had no other choice. Oscar started plastering another room. Olesia listened and played quietly. Oscar didn't yet know the simple truth. If a child is silent, something bad has happened. And then something terrible happened. "Daddy." Oscar heard the piercing cry of the child. "Daddy." While the man, throwing tools on the floor, ran to the next room, he managed to imagine the worst. However, the situation turned out not so dire. At least the child's arms and legs were intact. Her head was in its place, but her clothes were all stained with construction glue. "Daddy, I just wanted to press it, and it splattered and probably won't wash out." The girl cried. Sticky substance covered her head. In an attempt to remove it from her hair, the girl only spread it more. Some got on her forehead, hands, neck. Oscar immediately started to clean it. However, he couldn't save the child's hair. The glue hardened quickly. The man, still in his work clothes, ran with the child to the men's hair salon, the one he used to go to himself. "Help!" Oscar shouted, looking at his barber with bulging eyes. The bearded man with broad shoulders bustled around. He couldn't cut children's hair, let alone girls. However, he had to come to the rescue for his friend and regular client. The girl was crying. She cried even more when she saw the bearded man who leaned over her with hair clippers. In the end, Olesia got a short haircut. At first, the girl was worried, saying that now she looked like a boy. However, her stepfather reassured her, convincing her that she remained the most beautiful girl in the world. This incident was just a drop in the ocean of difficulties that a single father had to face. It was challenging for Oscar to raise a girl. He knew nothing about dresses and tights, bows and shoes, so he often bought pants and sneakers for Olesia, unintentionally turning the princess into a tomboy. He tried to play dolls with Olesia, although he preferred playing football. However, he learned to remove juice stains from t-shirts, iron, sew on buttons. When Olesia turned 8, her hair was still short. The man tried to be not only a father, but also a friend to the girl. Oscar started cooking apple pie more often, adding a scoop of ice cream and also lasagna because his daughter loved it all. He rarely cooked meat patties with onions and liver with sour cream, which he liked himself because Olesia didn't eat them. In any case, Oscar thought he was doing well, and he was, until Olesia turned 10. On that winter day, Olesia came to school shortly before the lesson. The girl was pale. Even the frost couldn't make her cheeks rosy. She didn't look up at her friends who were discussing upcoming holidays and breaks. They said there would be no math class. The teacher fell ill, shouted a student, making a triumphant gesture. He was happy because he hadn't done his homework. "Hooray!" echoed the joy of the student and his classmates. Olesia at first was also glad, but the next piece of news shocked her. we've postponed PE from the last lesson to the first one, so now we'll go to the gym," sounded in the classroom. Suddenly, Olesia's face turned whiter than the chalk someone had drawn a Christmas tree with on the blackboard. She sat down on a chair, realizing that she was starting to shake. "Olesia, why are you sitting?" her friend asked. "You'll be late, and the teacher will make you run an extra 10 minutes. She's so pretty but so strict." Olesia nodded but didn't answer. Troubled thoughts swirled in her head. The girl had skipped PE a couple of times before, citing either stomach pain or urgent matters. Today, she hoped to skip the last lesson again, but fate decided otherwise. Olesia descended to the first floor with difficulty and entered the locker room. She quickly changed into sportswear, still hoping to escape, perhaps to the cafeteria or the women's restroom. However, when Olesia left the locker room, she came face to face with the gym teacher of the upperclassmen, who often passed by the gym. "Olesia, why are you here?" he exclaimed. "Nothing hurts today. No world-saving missions. No rescuing kittens from trees or helping grannies cross the road." Olesia blushed deeply and shook her head. Tears welled up in her eyes. She held her hands strangely, as if hugging herself. The girl couldn't stand properly. The teacher felt sorry for her. He scratched his head and said, "Come on, what are you thinking?" "I'm just joking. Let's go to the gym with the teacher," he said, feeling a bit awkward. At first, she realized that he never looked at her and even relaxed a little. Maybe everything will be okay, she thought. However, her hopes were shattered when the kids started warming up. "To warm up, and no noise," commanded the teacher named Megan. A boy stepped forward and began turning his head, and then, glancing at Olesia, he stopped and suddenly burst into laughter. "Olesia, are you pregnant or something?" Olesia was stunned, frozen under the gaze of classmates who all rushed towards her. The boys picked up the friend's words, teasing the girl. "Olesia is pregnant." They laughed, not realizing the pain they were causing the girl. To the laughter and noise, Teacher Megan quickly approached the children. Seeing the trembling Olesia, tears streaming down her cheeks, she ran up to the girl. Olesia hid her protruding belly behind thin hands. Its size was quite impressive. The girl herself was slim, so the sight of the protruding belly amazed the teacher. "Olesia, is something hurting you?" the teacher asked quietly, looking into the girl's eyes. Olesia pressed her trembling lips, but then nodded. "My stomach hurts a little." And something else. She burst into bitter tears, embarrassed to continue. Megan became even more frightened. She glanced at the girl and looked at the curious faces of the children, then said, "Another teacher will take care of you." Inviting a substitute teacher, the woman hurried with the child to the infirmary. The nurse was not in place, so the teacher waited in the office with the girl. Olesia trustingly pressed against her and confessed, "They're right. I'm pregnant." Lily's mouth opened slightly, and she asked softly, "Why did you decide that, dear?" Involuntarily, the teacher remembered the girl's absences. Wiping her nose, the girl explained, "A month ago, I kissed a boy during recess. He gave me chocolates, and I kissed him right on the lips. His sister from the 9th grade told me that you can get pregnant from a kiss, and now my belly has started to grow." The teacher tried to reassure the girl. "Sweetie, you can't get pregnant from a kiss. Tell me, didn't your mom tell you anything about relationships with boys?" It turned out the girl didn't have a mom, only stepfather Oscar. She didn't want to talk to him about it. The nurse rushed in, but couldn't give a clear answer. The doctor explained that development in girls starts earlier. After the examination, Megan called the girl's father, and when he rushed to the school, he was in shock. The teacher explained that the girl thought she was expecting a baby and asked why he hadn't discussed issues of age-related development with her. Oscar justified himself, but the teacher wasn't going to blame him. The next day, Olesia did not show up at school, and she was taken to a pediatric gynecologist. It turned out that the girl had a benign tumor, and the surgery was successful. Oscar and his daughter received support from the teacher, who later became a part of their family. Megan helped with the upbringing of the girl, supporting the father. Soon, Oscar and Megan got married, and Olesia found herself real parents. They were both strangers, but they loved and cared for her as their own. That was the most important thing. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to the channel, Give it a like and watch the next videos.